Jessica Warren's hands trembled as she read the email from her estranged sister. You are explicitly not invited to my wedding. Everyone important to me will be there, and you're not one of them. The cold words cut deeper than her sister could. No, but as Jessica's gaze drifted to the framed photo of them as children, back when they were inseparable, something within her shifted from heartbreak to fierce determination. Standing on the sprawling grounds of the Bellevue estate, Jessica watched as her real estate agent handed her the keys to what was now the most expensive impulse purchase of her life, the exclusive wedding venue her sister had dreamed about since childhood. Congratulations, Ms. Warren, the agent said with a puzzled smile, though I'm curious why someone who isn't getting married would need a wedding venue. What shocking family secret will be revealed when Jessica's carefully orchestrated plan unfolds? If this story touched your heart, like and subscribe to our channel, and share your own experiences with family weddings gone wrong in the comments below. The pristine white walls of Dr. Melissa Cohen's office had witnessed Jessica's tears before, but never like this. Jessica sat perched on the edge of the leather couch. Her usually confident posture crumbled like the tissues clutched in her hand. She doesn't want me there, Melissa. My own sister. The only family I have left, Dr. Cohen's. Voice remained steady. Tell me what happened, Jessica. An email. Not even a phone call. Jessica's laugh was hollow. 4 sentences to tell me I'm not welcome at her wedding. Like I'm some distant acquaintance she's cutting from the guest list to save on catering costs. And how did that make you feel? Jessica stood abruptly, pacing the room. How do you think it made me feel? I raised her. I was 18 when our parents died. 18. I had a full scholarship to MIT. I had dreams, but I gave them up because she was just 14 and needed me. The memories flooded back. The call from the police. The rain at the funeral. Signing guardianship papers with shaking hands. Selling their childhood home to pay off debts. Working 3 jobs while finishing high school remotely. I built my company. From my bedroom while she slept across the hall. Every decision I made, every single one, I asked myself, is this best for Olivia? For 10 years, she was everything. Dr. Cohen nodded. And when did things change between you? Jessica's pacing slowed. College, I guess. I saved enough to send her to NYU. She met new people, rich people, people who summered in the Hamptons and wintered in Aspen, people who never had to worry about choosing between electricity and groceries. Jessica's voice cracked. She started coming home less, calling less, changed her accent, her clothes, her friends, like she was ashamed of where she came from, of me. Did you talk to her about how you felt? I tried. God, I tried. But she'd say I was being controlling, that I couldn't let her grow up. Jessica returned to the couch, deflated. Maybe she was right. Maybe I held on too tight. Dr. Cohen leaned forward. Jessica, you sacrificed your youth to become a parent overnight. That creates a complicated dynamic. But to not invite me to her wedding? I found out she was engaged on Instagram, Melissa. Instagram. Some influencer posted a photo of the proposal at some yacht party. My sister's biggest moment, and I had to find out alongside thousands of strangers. Have you reached out to her since the email? Jessica shook her head. What would I say? Sorry, your only sister and guardian is such an embarrassment that you can't have her at your wedding? Dr. Cohen's expression softened. Maybe there's more to this story, Jessica. People often lash out most severely at those they're closest to. We're not close anymore. That's the problem. Jessica checked her watch. I should go. I have a board meeting in an hour. As she gathered her things, Dr. Cohen asked quietly, what would your parents want for the 2 of you, Jessica? The question hung in the air, unanswered, as Jessica closed the door behind her. In the back of her town car, Jessica scrolled through her phone, landing on Olivia's Instagram. Her sister's face beamed back at her, champagne flute raised beside a handsome man with a perfectly tailored suit and family money written all over him. The caption read, 100 days until I marry my prince, becoming Winthrop. Jessica's driver glanced in the rearview mirror. Everything okay, Ms. Warren? She quickly wiped away a tear. Yes, David, everything's fine. But it wasn't fine. Nothing had been fine since that rainy night 16 years ago when 2 police officers showed up at their door. Nothing had been fine since Jessica had to become both sister and mother at an age when her biggest concern should have been freshman orientation. Nothing had been fine since the person she'd sacrificed everything for had decided she wasn't worth a seat at her wedding. As the car pulled up to her company headquarters, the gleaming 40-story building with Warren Tech emblazoned across the top, Jessica put on the mask she wore every day. Successful CEO, confident leader, woman who had it all figured out. No one needed to know that inside. She was still that terrified 18-year-old girl, suddenly alone in the world with a child to raise, and no idea how to do it. "You need tequila," Marco declared, sliding onto the bar stool beside Jessica, "and not that top-shelf nonsense. The kind that makes you forget your own name." Jessica managed a weak smile. Marco had been her best friend since college, the one person who'd stuck around through the endless nights of work and worry. As the creative director for her company's marketing division, he knew exactly when to pull her away from the office and force her to be human again. "I'm not drinking to forget my name," Jessica said. "Just my sister's." "Well, in that case." Marco signaled the bartender. 2 shots of Patron, the ladies paying. The upscale Manhattan bar hummed with the sounds of after-work professionals, unwinding. Jessica felt out of place in her tailored suit, too formal, too rigid. Marco nudged her shoulder. "Phone away. House rule." Jessica reluctantly set her phone face down on the bar. "I was just checking if little sister dearest posted any more wedding updates that would make you feel like garbage. Not on my watch." Marco pushed a shot toward her. "To family. Can't live with 'em. Can't legally disown 'em." They clinked glasses and drank. The tequila burned pleasantly down Jessica's throat. "So," Marco said, ordering another round, "what's the venue?" "Please tell me it's not the Plaza. So basic." "I don't know." She blocked me from seeing most of her posts. "Amateur move. That's what fake accounts are for." Marco pulled out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Let's see what we can find." "Ah!" Someone tagged her in a venue tour post. "Bellevue Estate in Connecticut. Very exclusive. Very expensive." He turned his phone to show Jessica. Her stomach twisted as she recognized the sprawling mansion surrounded by manicured gardens. "We used to drive past that place when we were kids. Our parents would take us for Sunday drives, and Olivia would press her face against the window, saying that's where she'd get married someday. Well, dreams do come true, apparently. Though I thought the dream included having her sister there." Marco scrolled through more photos. "Looks like they're doing a whole weekend event. Rehearsal dinner Friday, wedding Saturday, farewell brunch Sunday. Very Bridgerton meets Succession." Jessica took the phone, zooming in on her sister's radiant face as she stood on the mansion's grand staircase. James Winthrop's arm was wrapped possessively around her waist, his family's old money evident in the casual way he wore his privilege. "You know what would be hilarious?" Marco said, accepting another shot from the bartender. "If you just bought the place." Jessica looked up. "What?" "The venue. Buy it." "Sorry, sis. New management policy. No bridezillas allowed." He laughed at his own joke. God, can you imagine her face? Jessica didn't laugh. Instead, she picked up her phone and began typing. "What are you doing?" Marco asked, leaning over her shoulder. "Researching Bellevue Estate." "Jess, I was kidding. You can't actually buy a... It's for sale." Jessica turned her phone to show him the listing. "Has been for 6 months. The family that owns it is liquidating assets after some scandal. They're motivated sellers." Marco's eyes widened. "Jessica Warren, you are not seriously considering this." But Jessica was already dialing a number. "Charles, it's Jessica. I need you to vet a property for me. Bellevue Estate in Greenwich." "Yes, the wedding venue. I'm interested in acquiring it. How quickly can we move?" She listened for a moment. "Perfect. Set up a meeting for tomorrow." She hung up, met Marco's astonished stare and shrugged. "What? It's an investment. It's insane is what it is." Marco shook his head. "Do you even know how much a place like that costs? Less than my last round of venture funding and more satisfying than my last 3 relationships combined." Jessica signaled for the check. "Besides, commercial real estate is a solid portfolio diversification." Marco grabbed her arm. "This isn't about real estate and you know it. You're hurt and angry, and you're about to spend millions of dollars on revenge, not revenge. Justice." Jessica's voice was steady. "She took away my invitation. I'll take away her venue. And then what? You think this will make her realize what she's missing? This will only drive her further away." Jessica's face hardened. She can't go any further away than she already is. Outside the bar, Marco tried one last time. "Sleep on it, at least. You've built your empire on smart decisions, not emotional ones." Jessica's town car pulled up to the curb. "I'll call you tomorrow after the meeting." But they both knew her mind was made up. That night, Jessica sat in her penthouse overlooking Central Park, laptop open, scrolling through photos of Bellevue Estate. It was even more beautiful than she remembered from those childhood drives. 14 acres of pristine grounds, a historic mansion with 22 rooms, gardens designed by the same architect who'd worked on the National Mall. Her phone rang. Charles, her lawyer, with preliminary details. The owners were eager to sell. The property had been losing money for years. The maintenance costs astronomical. They'd entertain an all-cash offer with a quick closing. It's not a prudent investment, Jessica, Charles cautioned. The operating costs alone. I'm not looking for prudent, Charles. I'm looking for possible. Can we do this or not? We can, but... Then draw up the paperwork. I'll see you tomorrow. After hanging up, Jessica walked to her bedroom and opened her closet. Behind designer clothes and shoes was a small, worn cardboard box. She pulled it out, sat cross-legged on the floor, and lifted the lid. Inside were the few mementos she'd kept from their parents' house. Her mother's favorite scarf, her father's watch, a family photo album. She flipped through it slowly, tracing, a finger over images of 4 smiling people who had no idea what was coming. She paused at a photo of Olivia at 6 years old, gap-toothed and beaming, holding a crayon drawing of a princess castle. My dream house, she'd labeled it in wobbly letters. Jessica closed the album, decision crystallized. Tomorrow, she would buy her sister's dream, and then decide what to do with it. Bellevue Estate was even more magnificent in person. Jessica stood at the wrought iron gates, her sleek Louboutins sinking slightly into the gravel driveway as Charles pulled up behind her in his Mercedes. Still convinced this is a good idea? He asked, joining her. Jessica didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the Georgian-style mansion that rose from the landscape like something from another time. Perfectly symmetrical, with imposing columns and windows that caught the morning light. It was the kind of place that had witnessed generations of wealth, of celebrations and sorrows, of lives unfolding against a backdrop of privilege. Ms. Warren, a man in his 50s, approached, hand extended. Robert Caldwell, Prestige Properties. We spoke on the phone. Jessica shook his hand. This is Charles Blackwood, my attorney. Wonderful. Shall we begin the tour? As they walked the grounds, Robert detailed the property's history. Built in 1887 by a railroad tycoon, it had remained in the same family for generations until financial troubles and scandal forced them to convert it to an event venue 20 years ago. The wedding business kept it afloat, but the upkeep is staggering, Robert explained as they strolled through gardens where cherry blossoms fluttered like pink snow. The Carmichael family held on as long as they could, but after the embezzlement, charges against the current patriarch, well, they need to liquidate quickly. How quickly? Jessica asked. They've already relocated to their property in Switzerland. They're motivated sellers. They entered the mansion through carved oak doors that opened into a grand foyer with a sweeping staircase. Jessica could imagine Olivia descending those stairs in her wedding gown, the train trailing behind her like a waterfall of white. The thought both pained and strengthened her resolve. The main ballroom can accommodate 300 guests, Robert continued, leading them into a spectacular space with crystal chandeliers and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. We've hosted celebrities, politicians, even minor royalty. Jessica walked to the center of the room, her footsteps echoing. And the bookings? How far out are you scheduled? Robert hesitated. We've honored all contracts through the next 6 months. After that, we've been reluctant to accept new bookings given the uncertain ownership situation. 6 months, Jessica repeated. Olivia's wedding was in less than 4. I'll need a list of all current bookings. Charles raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The tour continued through reception rooms, a commercial kitchen, private suites for wedding parties, and the meticulously landscaped grounds, including a rose garden where ceremonies were typically held. The property comes with full furnishings and equipment, Robert explained. The staff would be willing to stay on under new ownership. They're quite loyal to the estate, if not the Carmichaels. In a wood-paneled study, Robert spread out blueprints and financial documents. Charles reviewed them with his usual thoroughness, while Jessica wandered to the window, looking out at the view Olivia would have on her wedding day. The operating losses are substantial, Charles noted. Even with a generous purchase price, you're looking at significant ongoing expenses. Jessica turned. What would it take to make this place profitable? Robert brightened. Well, with some modernization of the facilities expanded marketing efforts, perhaps adding corporate retreats to the wedding business. I'm not interested in corporate retreats, Jessica cut in. What's the asking price? 12 million. But there's room to negotiate. I'll offer 10. All cash. Closing in 2 weeks. Charles's pen froze mid-note. Robert's professional demeanor slipped momentarily. That's quite aggressive, Robert managed. Though the Carmichaels are eager to sell, they had hoped. The property has been on the market for 6 months with no serious offers, Jessica said coolly. The family is facing legal troubles and mounting debts. 10 million cash with a fast closing is more than fair. Charles cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss this privately, Jessica. There's nothing to discuss. She turned to Robert. Call the Carmichaels. Tell them my offer is good for 24 hours. Robert excused himself to make the call. When he was gone, Charles turned to Jessica. This is impulsive, even for you. It's not impulsive. It's decisive. It's about your sister. Jessica didn't deny it. Is the offer sound? Charles sighed. Financially, yes. The property is undervalued. But Jessica, purchasing an entire estate to spite your sister. I'm not discussing my motivations, Charles. Just the legalities. Robert returned 30 minutes later, looking slightly dazed. They've accepted. 10 million, closing in 2 weeks. As is. They'd like a substantial deposit to show good faith. 500,000 wired today, Jessica said without hesitation. Draw up the paperwork. As Charles and Robert worked through details, Jessica slipped outside to the rose garden. She sat on a stone bench, imagining Olivia standing here, exchanging vows with James Winthrop, surrounded by the elite social circle that had become her. New family. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marco. Tell me you didn't do it. She typed back. Bellevue Estate, under new management. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Reappeared. Finally. You're either the most badass or the craziest person I know. Possibly both. Jessica smiled faintly, slipping her phone away as Robert approached with paperwork. Congratulations, Ms. Warren, he said, handing her a pen. Though I must admit, I'm curious why someone who isn't getting married would need a wedding venue. Jessica signed her name with a flourish. Let's just say, I'm securing my sister's happiness. It wasn't entirely a lie, just not in the way Robert imagined. The morning after signing the purchase agreement, Jessica woke with a headache and a hollow feeling in her stomach. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of her penthouse, illuminating the stack of Bellevue Estate documents on her nightstand. The reality of what she'd done hit her like a physical blow. $10 million. For revenge. She'd built her tech company on sound decisions and strategic planning, not emotional impulses. What would her board say if they knew? What would her parents think? Eleanor was already in the kitchen when Jessica emerged from her bedroom. The older woman had been with Jessica since the early days of her company, initially hired as a housekeeper, but becoming something more like family over the years. You look terrible, Eleanor observed, sliding a cup of coffee across the counter. Thank you. Just what every woman wants to hear first thing in the morning. Jessica took a grateful sip. I may have done something questionable. Eleanor raised an eyebrow. Tax evasion? Corporate espionage? Please tell me you haven't been insider trading. Despite herself, Jessica smiled. I bought a wedding venue. Congratulations. Should I be planning a shower? Not for me. It's the venue where Olivia is getting married. Eleanor sat down, the dish towel she'd been holding. Oh, Jessica, I know. Do you? Do you really understand what you've done? Jessica bristled. She uninvited me from her wedding. Her wedding, Eleanor. After everything I sacrificed. So this is about getting even? Making her hurt the way you hurt? Eleanor shook her head. That's not the Jessica Warren I know. Maybe you don't know me as well as you think. I've known you since you were 22, sleeping on a futon in that tiny apartment, building your company while making sure Olivia had everything she needed for school. I've seen you cry when you thought no one was looking, because you missed your parents so much it physically hurt. I've watched you check on your sister in the middle of the night when she had nightmares. Eleanor's voice softened. That Jessica wouldn't do this. Jessica stared into her coffee. That Jessica was naive. She thought if she just worked hard enough, sacrificed enough, everything would work out. That Jessica didn't understand that some people just leave, no matter what you do for them. For your sister isn't your parents, Jessica. She didn't choose to leave you. Didn't she? She's cut me out of her life piece by piece for years. This wedding was just the final slice. Eleanor sighed. What are you going to do now? Cancel her booking? Force her to find another venue weeks before her wedding? Put that way. It sounded petty and cruel. Jessica winced. I haven't decided. Well, decide soon, because this path leads nowhere good. Eleanor squeezed Jessica's shoulder before leaving the kitchen. Alone, Jessica pulled out her phone and scrolled to the photos of Bellevue she'd taken yesterday. It truly was a magical place, the kind of venue that made fairy tale weddings a reality, the kind of place Olivia had dreamed about since she was a little girl. Jessica closed her eyes, remembering the night after their parents' funeral. Olivia, just 14, crawling into Jessica's bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Promise you won't leave me too, she'd begged. Promise you'll always be here. I promise, Jessica had whispered, holding her sister close. I'll always take care of you. I promise. Had she broken that promise? Or had Olivia broken her trust? The lines had blurred so much over the years, resentment and obligation tangling together until neither of them could see clearly anymore. Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Tech CEO Jessica Warren acquires historic Bellevue estate. The business press was already reporting the purchase. How long before Olivia saw it? As if on cue, her phone lit up with Marco's name. Have you seen Instagram? He asked without preamble. No. Why? Olivia posted about you. It's not good, Jess. Jessica's stomach dropped. What did she say? I'm sending you the link. Brace yourself. Seconds later, her phone pinged with a message. Jessica clicked it, opening Instagram to find a post from Olivia. It was a split-screen image. On one side, a childhood photo of the sisters. On the other, a screenshot of the news story about Jessica buying Bellevue. The caption read, "Some people build businesses. My sister builds walls. For those wondering why she's not invited to my wedding, Exhibit A, controlling behavior that's defined our relationship since our parents died. Money doesn't buy class. And it certainly doesn't buy a seat at my wedding. Toxic family, setting boundaries, mental health." Jessica's hands shook as she read the hundreds of comments, most supporting Olivia, calling Jessica toxic and controlling. People she'd never met judging 16 years of sacrifice and love based on a single Instagram post. That night, Jessica dreamed of her parents. They stood in the rose garden at Bellevue, disappointment etched on their faces. Her father shook, his head slowly. "This isn't what we wanted for you girls." She started it. Jessica protested, feeling childish even as the words left her mouth. Her mother's voice was soft but firm. "And you'll finish it, one way or another." Jessica woke with tears on her face, her parents' words echoing in her mind. She reached for her phone and pulled up the Bellevue estate documents again, wondering if she could still back out of the purchase. But then she saw it. A notification that Olivia had posted again, this time a video. With trembling fingers, Jessica pressed play. "For everyone asking about the venue situation," Olivia was saying, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "Don't worry. My amazing fiancé has connections, and we've already secured an even better location. Sorry, sis. Your little power play failed. As usual, you underestimated me." Jessica felt something harden inside her. The small voice urging reconciliation fell silent. "Game on, little sister," she whispered to the screen. "Game on. I need ideas," Jessica announced, pacing the length of her living room where Marco, her assistant Zoe, and Eleanor had gathered. "Olivia claims she's found another venue, but I've had my team check every high-end location within 100 miles. Nothing's available on her date. Maybe she's bluffing," Zoe suggested, typing notes on her tablet. "Olivia doesn't bluff," Jessica replied. "She manipulates. There's a difference." Marco sprawled on the sofa, martini in hand. "So, what exactly is your endgame here, Jess? You've dropped $10 million on a venue. Now what? Let it sit empty while she gets married somewhere else?" Jessica stopped pacing. "No. I'm going to host her wedding." 3 pairs of eyes stared at her in confusion. "You've lost me," Marco said. "I thought the whole point was to stop the wedding, not stop it, control it." Jessica resumed pacing. "Olivia's post confirmed what I suspected. She can't find another venue, which means she'll have to come crawling back to Bellevue, which you now own," Zoe said slowly. "Exactly. And as the owner, I can set certain conditions." Eleanor shook her head. "Jessica, revenge isn't going to heal what's broken between you two." "This isn't just about revenge anymore," Jessica insisted. "It's about finally getting Olivia to see me. Really see me. Not just as the controlling older sister, but as someone who sacrificed everything for her. And buying her wedding venue accomplishes that? How?" Marco asked skeptically. Jessica sat down, leaning forward intensely. I don't know yet, but I have leverage now, and I intend to use it. Marco set down his drink. Okay, if we're really doing this, let's think strategically. What do we know about the groom? James Winthrop, right? Old money? 5th generation, Zoe confirmed, pulling up information on her tablet. Family made their fortune in shipping, diversified into real estate and banking. James is the eldest son, Harvard Business School, works at the family's investment firm. Perfect on paper, Jessica muttered. Too perfect? Marco raised an eyebrow. Nobody's that squeaky clean. Zoe, can you dig deeper? Tax issues, scandals, ex-girlfriends with grievances? On it, Zoe said, fingers flying across her screen. Eleanor stood up. I don't like where this is going. You're talking about sabotaging your sister's relationship now? Not sabotaging, Jessica corrected. Vetting. If this guy is genuinely good, for Olivia, great. But if he's using her, like you think everyone is using her? Eleanor challenged. The room fell silent. Jessica's cheeks flushed. That's not fair, isn't it? Since she started pulling away, you've convinced yourself it's because other people are manipulating her. Maybe, just maybe, she's making her own choices. Jessica opened her mouth to argue, but Marco intervened. Let's take a step back. Eleanor's right that we shouldn't jump to conclusions about James, but there's no harm in learning more about the family Olivia's marrying into. Jessica nodded reluctantly. Fine. Zoe, hire a private investigator, someone discreet. Already texting Mason Blake, Zoe replied. He's the best. While we're waiting for intel, Marco continued, let's focus on the estate. If you're going to host this wedding after all, you'll want to make some improvements. Show Olivia you're serious. What kind of improvements? Jessica asked. The kind that make her realize what she's been missing. Marco pulled out his phone, showing Jessica photos of Bellevue. The ballroom chandeliers are dated. The bridal suite needs a complete overhaul, and that rose garden is gorgeous, but could be spectacular with the right landscaping. Despite herself, Jessica felt a spark of excitement. I could update everything, make it even more perfect than she imagined. Exactly, Marco said. Kill her with kindness and killer aesthetics. Eleanor watched them with worried eyes, but said nothing. The next morning, Jessica met with Mason Blake in her office, the private investigator was unassuming in appearance, which, he explained, was his greatest professional asset. The Winthrops, he said, opening a folder. Prominent family, careful about their public image, but scratch the surface. And, Jessica prompted, their financial situation isn't what it appears to be. The 2008 crisis hit them hard, and they never fully recovered. They've been selling off assets quietly for years. Jessica frowned, but they still live like aristocracy. Smoke and mirrors, Mason replied. The townhouse is mortgaged to the hilt. The Hamptons property is actually owned by a shell company controlled by Chinese investors. They're keeping up appearances, but they're running out of runway. And James? Harvard. Business school is correct, but his position at the family firm is largely ceremonial. The real decisions are made by outside consultants brought in by the creditors. Mason slid across a photograph of James at a gala. He does, however, have expensive tastes. The watch on his wrist is worth more than most people's cars. Jessica studied the photo. So he's marrying Olivia for her connection to me. For money, Mason shrugged. I can't speak to motives, only facts. But it's worth noting that his previous relationships were all with women from wealthy families. Yet none ended in marriage. Until my sister, Jessica said quietly. The self-made tech heiress. There's more, Mason continued. James's mother has been particularly involved in wedding planning. According to my sources, she's the one who pushed for Bellevue, insisted on the guest list, even selected the floral arrangements, controlling the narrative, Jessica mused, making sure the wedding projects the right image. Precisely. The guest list is particularly telling, heavy on potential investors and business connections. Jessica felt a cold anger building. They're using my sister's wedding as a networking event, a way to prop up their failing empire. It appears that way. As Mason left, Jessica turned to the windows overlooking Manhattan. Was Olivia aware of what she was walking into? Or was she so desperate to belong to this world of old money and social status that she didn't care? Her phone buzzed. Zoe, with an update on Bellevue. The renovations Jessica had authorized were underway. The bridal suite was being transformed. The ballroom chandeliers replaced with spectacular crystal fixtures. the rose garden enhanced with rare varieties being flown in from around the world. That evening, while reviewing renovation plans, Jessica found herself opening an old storage box she kept in her home office. Buried beneath financial documents and early business plans was a small leather-bound book with Olivia embossed on the cover, her sister's diary, accidentally left behind during one of her college visits home. Jessica had meant to return it but forgot. Now, she hesitated, fingers tracing the worn edges. It felt wrong to invade Olivia's privacy this way. And yet, she opened it to a random page, dated 6 years ago, during Olivia's sophomore year at NYU. Met the Prestons today at Margot's party. They live in a literal mansion in summer in France. When they asked about my family, I said my parents died in a boating accident in the Mediterranean. Easier than explaining the truth, that they died in a car crash coming home from my soccer game in Jersey. Jessica would be so disappointed in me, but she doesn't understand what it's like to always be the charity case, the girl with the tragic backstory, and the sister who sacrificed everything to raise her. Sometimes I just want to be someone else. Someone with a past as glossy as the future I'm trying to build. Jessica closed the diary, her anger giving way to a profound sadness. All these years she'd thought Olivia was rejecting her, but maybe Olivia had been rejecting herself, the self that reminded her of loss and pain, and never quite belonging. Suddenly, her plan to control Olivia's wedding seemed hollow and mean-spirited, but simply walking away wasn't the answer either. There had to be a middle path, one that could heal rather than harm. She picked up her phone and called Marco. "I need to change the plan," she said when he answered. "I still want to host Olivia's wedding at Bellevue, but not to punish her. To give her the day she deserves, the day our parents would have wanted for her." "That's surprisingly mature," Marco said. "What brought this on?" Jessica glanced at the diary. "Let's just say I got a glimpse into my sister's heart, and it's more fragile than I realized." Olivia Warren, soon to be Winthrop, clutched her leather portfolio tighter as she hurried up the stone path to Bellevue Estate. She was 15 minutes late for her meeting with the venue coordinator, and Diana Winthrop did not tolerate tardiness, especially not from her future daughter-in-law. "There you are." Diana's cool voice cut through the spring air. She stood on the mansion steps, elegant in a cream suit that probably cost more than Olivia's first semester of college. Beside her, James gave Olivia an apologetic smile. "Sorry, I'm late," Olivia said, slightly breathless. "Traffic from the city was—" "We managed to start without you," Diana interrupted. Rachel was just explaining some concerning news. The venue coordinator, a thin woman with a perpetually anxious expression, nodded. "As I was saying, there's been a change in ownership. All current bookings are under review." Olivia's stomach dropped. "Under review? But we signed a contract. We paid a deposit. The new owner is reassessing all commitments," Rachel explained, not quite meeting Olivia's eyes. "Your deposit will be refunded, of course." "Refunded?" Olivia's voice rose. "We don't want a refund. We want our wedding date." James placed a calming hand on her arm. "I'm sure we can work something out. Who's the new owner?" "Perhaps I know them." Rachel hesitated. "I'm not at liberty to disclose that information yet. The purchase was just finalized." Diana's perfectly composed face showed a hint of displeasure. "This is unacceptable. The Winthrop name carries significant influence. I expect this matter resolved immediately." "I understand, Mrs. Winthrop, but—" "No buts," Diana cut in. "My son is marrying in exactly 12 weeks, and he is doing so at Bellevue Estate. Make it happen." Rachel nodded stiffly. "I'll convey your concerns to the new management." As Rachel hurried back inside, Olivia fought rising panic. "What are we going to do?" "Every other venue is booked. Don't worry, darling," Diana said with practiced calm. "James's father will handle this. Won't he, James?" James nodded, though Olivia caught the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "Of course. Dad knows everyone." Later, in James's Tesla heading back to Manhattan, Olivia finally let her composure crack. "This is a disaster. All the invitations have gone out. The vendors are booked. My dress was designed specifically for those gardens." James reached across the console to squeeze her hand. "We'll figure it out, Liv. I promise." "How? By having your father strong-arm some poor venue coordinator? That won't work if the new owner doesn't care about social connections. Then we'll find somewhere else. Somewhere better." Olivia turned to look out the window, blinking back tears. "There is nowhere better. Bellevue was perfect. I've dreamed about getting married there since I was a kid." James sighed. "I know, and I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, what matters is that we're getting married, right? Not where it happens. Olivia didn't answer. She loved James. His kindness, his sense of humor, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the world. But sometimes she wondered if he truly understood her. To him, a wedding venue was just a backdrop, interchangeable with any other sufficiently grand location. To her, Bellevue represented something more, a dream she'd held on to through the darkest days after her parents died, a symbol of the life she'd worked so hard to build. When they reached her apartment, a sleek one-bedroom in Tribeca that cost more than she could afford, but that James had insisted was necessary for someone marrying into his family, Olivia immediately called every high-end venue in the tri-state area. As expected, none had availability on such short notice. By midnight, she was sitting on her kitchen floor, surrounded by wedding planning binders, stress-eating ice cream straight from the container. Her phone buzzed with a text from Diana. Harold reached out to his contact at the plaza, meeting tomorrow at noon to discuss contingency. The plaza, perfectly nice, perfectly predictable. The same place where 3 of James's cousins had gotten married, where Diana herself had celebrated her 25th anniversary, where Olivia would become just another Winthrop bride, indistinguishable from all who came before. She set down her phone without responding and pulled out her laptop. Maybe she could find the contact information for Bellevue's new owner directly. Searching recent real estate transactions yielded nothing. She tried the business press, typing Bellevue Estate New Owner into the search bar. The first result made her spoon clatter to the floor. Tech CEO Jessica Warren acquires historic Bellevue Estate. Olivia stared at her sister's name in shock, then fury. It couldn't be a coincidence. Jessica had bought her wedding venue, her dream venue, out of spite. With shaking hands, she navigated to Instagram and began typing, uploading the most damning post she could craft. As she pressed share, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered that she might regret this. She silenced it ruthlessly. The next morning, her post had gone viral within their social circle. Her phone exploded with supportive messages, friends and acquaintances expressing outrage on her behalf. Toxic Sister was trending in their little corner of the internet. James called around 9. "Have you seen what your sister's saying?" "My sister hasn't said anything," Olivia replied, confused. Check her Twitter. Jessica rarely used social media for personal matters, preferring to maintain a professional image. But there it was, a simple tweet. Family is complicated. Business is not. Bellevue Estate will honor all existing contracts with complimentary upgrades for all current bookings. Some things are more important than pride. Olivia stared at the screen. What was Jessica playing at? If she was honoring their booking, why had Rachel said otherwise? As if on cue, her phone rang. Rachel from Bellevue. "Ms. Warren? I'm calling with good news. The new owner has reviewed your contract, and not only will your wedding proceed as planned, but she's authorized significant complimentary upgrades to your package." "What kind of upgrades?" Olivia asked suspiciously. "Premium floral arrangements, enhanced catering menu, top-shelf bar package, extended hours." "It's quite extraordinary." Olivia's mind raced. This didn't sound like the vengeful sister she'd accused on social media. It sounded like a peace offering, or a trap. "Is there a catch?" she demanded. "Does the new owner want something in return?" Rachel hesitated. "She did mention one condition." "I knew it," Olivia muttered. "What does she want?" "She's requested a meeting with you. Just you. No family members or wedding planners. To discuss the vision for your special day." Olivia's grip tightened on her phone. So that was Jessica's game. Get her alone, then either gloat or try to manipulate her somehow. "When?" she asked tersely. "Tomorrow at 2. At Bellevue." After hanging up, Olivia paced her apartment, debating what to do. She could refuse the meeting, find another venue as Diana wanted. The plaza was perfectly nice, but Bellevue was her dream. And maybe, just maybe, facing Jessica was overdue. "Fine," she whispered to herself. "Game on, big sister." Mason Blake's report landed on Jessica's desk with a soft thud, but its contents hit with the force of a sledgehammer. "The Winthrop family is in worse financial shape than initially estimated," he explained, standing across from her desk. "Their investment firm is essentially a shell. They've been living off family reputation and increasingly desperate loans for the past decade." Jessica flipped through the detailed financial analysis. "How have they kept this quiet?" "Old money knows how to maintain appearances," Mason replied. "But they're running out of options. Their creditors are getting impatient. And James? What's his role in all this?" Mason's expression turned grim. That's where it gets interesting. Based on intercepted communications, the family is counting on his marriage to secure a significant financial infusion. From my sister, Jessica said flatly. From you, Mason corrected. Olivia has no assets to speak of, but she has a connection to one of the most successful self-made women in tech. The Winthrops are betting that family ties will eventually lead to investment opportunities, board positions, bailouts. Jessica closed the folder, a cold anger settling in her chest. They're using my sister as a bridge to my money. It appears that way. The mother, Diana, is particularly calculating. She's the architect of the whole plan. Mason hesitated. There's more. About James. Tell me. On the surface, he seems genuinely fond of your sister. But he's under enormous pressure. From his family. His father's health is failing, and the family fortune rests on his shoulders. So what are you saying? Is he in love with my sister or not? Mason shrugged. Love and duty are complicated bedfellows in families like the Winthrops. I believe he cares for her, but I also believe he'd never have proposed without his family's urgent financial situation. After Mason left, Jessica sat at her desk, staring out at the Manhattan skyline. The report confirmed her worst suspicions, but it also presented a dilemma. If she revealed what she knew to Olivia, her sister would likely dismiss it as manipulation, another attempt to control her life. If she said nothing, she was letting Olivia walk blindly into a marriage where financial desperation was a silent third party. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rachel at Bellevue. Meeting with Olivia confirmed for tomorrow at 2 p.m. Jessica took a deep breath. One chance to get this right. That evening, as she reviewed the renovation plans for Bellevue's bridal suite, Marco called. I've been thinking about your sister situation, he said without preamble. That makes two of us. What if you're approaching this all wrong? What if instead of trying to protect Olivia from the Winthrops, you gave them exactly what they want, but on your terms? Jessica frowned. I'm not following. They want access to your money, right? So offer it. A significant investment in their business ventures, contingent on a rock-solid prenup that protects Olivia. You want me to bribe my sister's future in-laws? I want you to beat them at their own game, Marco countered. Show them you know exactly what they're doing, but you're willing to play ball for Olivia's happiness. And when the marriage inevitably falls apart, when James has secured his family's financial future and doesn't need Olivia anymore, that's what the prenup is for. Olivia walks away with enough to be comfortable for life. Jessica considered it. It's calculating. So are the Winthrops. The difference is, you actually care about Olivia. After hanging up, Jessica pulled out Olivia's diary again. She'd been reading entries from the past few years, trying to understand her sister's perspective. One passage from last year stood out. Met Jay's family today. They're everything I've ever wanted. Polished, sophisticated, with a sense of history and belonging that I've craved since Mom and Dad died. Diana Winthrop actually took my arm as we toured their summer home, telling me stories about James as a child like I was already part of the family. For the first time in forever, I didn't feel like an outsider looking in. Jessica would probably say they're just using me for my connection to her money. She's always suspicious of people's motives, but she doesn't understand what it's like to want to belong somewhere so badly you can taste it. Jessica closed the diary, a lump in her throat. Olivia had seen right through her potential objections, dismissing them before they could even be voiced. How had the sisters who had once shared everything, grief, dreams, late-night ice cream, become such strangers to each other? She picked up her phone to call Dr. Cohen, but hesitated. This wasn't about her feelings anymore. This was about Olivia's future. Instead, she called Charles. I need you to draft a document. 2 parts. A prenuptial agreement protecting my sister, and a separate investment proposal for Winthrop Industries. Jessica, Charles said carefully, are you sure this is wise? Mixing family and business is exactly what the Winthrops are already doing, Jessica finished. I'm just making the terms explicit. The next morning, Jessica arrived at Bellevue early, walking the grounds as workers installed new lighting in the gardens and painters refreshed the ballroom walls. The renovations were coming along beautifully. Whatever happened with Olivia, at least the venue would be spectacular. In the newly redesigned bridal suite, Jessica paused before a large mirror, studying her reflection. At 34, she looked older than her years. Success had come at the cost of stress lines around her eyes and a perpetual tension in her shoulders. When had she last truly relaxed? Taken a vacation? Had a relationship that lasted longer than a business quarter? Ms. Warren? Rachel appeared in the doorway. Your sister just arrived. Jessica smoothed her blazer, took a deep breath, and nodded. Send her up. As footsteps approached, Jessica steeled herself. This wasn't a corporate negotiation or a board meeting. This was Olivia, the little girl who'd once followed her everywhere, who'd crawled into her bed after nightmares, who'd looked at her with complete trust and dependence. The door opened, and there she stood. Olivia, 28 now, beautiful in a way their mother had been, warm and approachable rather than Jessica's more severe elegance. For a moment, neither spoke. Nice renovations, Olivia finally said, gesturing around the bridal suite. Very Instagram-worthy. That was the goal, Jessica replied, her voice carefully neutral. I believe congratulations are in order. Do you? Olivia's eyes narrowed. Somehow I doubt you're thrilled about my engagement. I wouldn't know, would I? Since I found out about it on social media. Olivia flinched slightly, but recovered quickly. Let's not pretend you care about being included in my life. You bought my wedding venue? Jessica. Who does that? Someone who wasn't invited to the wedding. The sisters stared at each other, years of unspoken hurt hanging in the air between them. Why am I here? Olivia finally asked. To get your permission to use the venue you bought out from under me? To grovel for the privilege of having my wedding where I've always dreamed of having it? Jessica shook her head. No, Olivia. You're here because despite everything, you're still my sister. And there are some things you need to know before you marry James Winthrop. Olivia's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. Of course, I should have known. You've never approved of anyone I've dated. This isn't about approval, Jessica said, struggling to keep her voice even. It's about facts. Facts. Olivia crossed her arms. Like the fact that you bought my wedding venue without telling me? Or the fact that you've been investigating my fiancé's family? Don't look surprised. James's father got a call from someone at their bank. They know someone's been digging. Jessica didn't deny it. The Winthrops aren't what they appear to be, Olivia. And you couldn't wait to tell me that, could you? Olivia paced the bridal suite, her anger building. You've always done this. Looked for flaws in everyone I bring into my life. No one's ever good enough for your precious little sister. That's not true, isn't it? You chased away Michael in college because he was distracting me from my studies. You mysteriously had Brandon's startup funding fall through when you thought he was using me to get to you. And now James's family is bankrupt. Jessica. Cut in. They're using you to get to my money. Olivia stopped pacing, her face flushed. There it is. Everything always comes back to your money, doesn't it? Your success, your company, your sacrifice. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. Olivia's voice rose. You think everyone wants something from you, that no one could possibly love me for me. They must be after the great Jessica Warren's fortune. Jessica took a step forward. Olivia, I have documentation, financial records. The Winthrops are in serious trouble. They've been hiding it for years, but they're running out of options. So what if they've had financial setbacks? Most families have. It doesn't mean they're marrying me off like some medieval princess to secure an alliance, doesn't it? Jessica pulled out Mason's report. James's mother has had 3 separate conversations with potential investors where she mentioned her son's upcoming marriage to Jessica Warren's sister. Not Olivia. Not the woman he loves. Jessica Warren's sister. Like your only value is your connection to me. Olivia snatched the report, skimming it with growing distress. When she looked up, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Did it ever occur to you that maybe they're just proud their son is marrying into a successful family? That maybe Diana is nervous about meeting my standards because I'm related to someone as accomplished as you, Olivia? No, Jessica. Not everyone is calculating and suspicious like you. Some people, normal people, just want connection, love, family. Jessica felt her own anger rising. You think I don't want those things? I think your work is your marriage, your company is your child, and your money is your security blanket. And you can't stand that I've found something you don't have. The words stung with the particular pain of truth. Jessica turned away, gathering herself before responding. I may not have the perfect fiancé or the society wedding, but I do have perspective, she said quietly. I remember what it was like before, when it was just us against the world. Before you controlled every aspect of my life, you mean? Jessica whirled around. Is that what you think I was doing? Controlling you? I was 18, Olivia. 18. with no parents, no support system, and a traumatized 14-year-old to raise. I was figuring it out as I went along. Well, you figured wrong, Olivia's voice cracked. You didn't raise me. You smothered me. Every decision, every friendship, every opportunity. All had to pass the Jessica Warren test. I was trying to protect you. From what? Life? Making my own mistakes? Having my own identity separate from you and your expectations? They stood facing each other, both breathing hard. Decades of resentment finally surfacing. You have no idea what I gave up for you, Jessica said, her voice low and dangerous. I never asked you to. You were 14. Someone had to step up. And you've never let me forget it, Olivia shot back. Saint Jessica, sacrificing everything for her poor orphaned sister. Well, guess what? I never wanted your sacrifice. I wanted my sister. But somewhere along the way, you became my warden instead. Jessica recoiled as if slapped. Warden? I put you through college. I made sure you had every opportunities you approved of, Olivia interrupted. What about when I wanted to study abroad in Paris? You said it was frivolous and a waste of resources. Or when I got that job offer at the gallery in London, suddenly it was irresponsible to move so far away. That gallery job paid nothing. You couldn't even afford rent, but it was my dream, and you just couldn't understand that because it didn't fit your idea of success. Jessica shook her head. I wanted security for you. Stability. No, you wanted control. And when I finally started making my own choices you didn't orchestrate, you couldn't handle it. Olivia's voice broke. Do you know why I didn't tell you about James at first? Because for once in my life, I wanted something that was just mine, not filtered through your judgment or your money or your influence. They fell silent, the weight of their words hanging between them. Outside, workers called to each other as they installed new lighting in the gardens. Life continuing, oblivious to the sisters' pain. I never meant to control you, Jessica finally said. I promised Mom and Dad I'd take care of you, take care of me. Yes, not decide my life for me. Olivia wiped at her eyes. And what about their other promise? The one where they made us promise to always be there for each other, to be sisters first? Jessica's throat tightened. I remember. No, you don't. Because if you did, you'd understand that buying this venue wasn't about helping me. It was about proving you still have power over my life. That's not true. But even as she said it, Jessica wasn't entirely sure. Olivia gathered her purse. I'm going to marry James, Jessica. Whether you approve or not. Whether his family has ulterior motives or not. Because I love him. And he loves me. Not my connection. To you. And if you're wrong, if after the wedding, when they've secured their financial future through me, things change, then I'll deal with it. My choice. My consequences. Olivia headed for the door, then paused. You know what the saddest part is? I actually wanted you at my wedding. I was working up the courage to call you, to try to mend things. Then you pulled this stunt, and I remembered exactly why I've kept my distance. The door closed behind her, with a soft click that somehow felt more final than a slam would have. Jessica stood alone in the beautiful bridal suite she'd designed for a sister who might never use it, the bitter taste of failure in her mouth. Her phone buzzed, a text from Marco. How did it go? She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the window overlooking the gardens where Olivia had dreamed of getting married since childhood. Workers were installing strings of fairy lights in the ancient oaks, creating what would be a magical canopy for the perfect wedding. A wedding Jessica might not be invited to, in a venue she now owned. The irony wasn't lost on her, but the victory felt hollow. She'd hurt the one person she'd promised to protect, all while convincing herself she was doing the right thing. As she watched Olivia's car disappear down the long driveway, Jessica wondered if some bridges, once burned, could ever truly be rebuilt. 3 days after the disastrous confrontation with Olivia, Jessica was buried in work at her Manhattan office when her assistant's voice came through the intercom. Ms. Warren, there's a James Winthrop here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's quite insistent. Jessica froze, fingers hovering over her keyboard. James Winthrop? Olivia's fiancé? Yes. He says it's a personal matter. Jessica glanced at her calendar, filled with back-to-back meetings. Tell him I have 5 minutes. That's it. Moments later, her office door opened to reveal a man who looked exactly like his photographs. Tall, conventionally handsome, with the confident bearing of someone raised believing the world belonged to him. But up close, Jessica noted the shadows. Under his eyes and the slight fraying at his shirt cuff, small imperfections in an otherwise polished appearance. "Ms. Warren," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for seeing me." Jessica shook it briefly. 5 minutes, Mr. Winthrop. I suggest you use them wisely. If her coldness bothered him, he didn't show it. Instead, he settled into one of the chairs, across from her desk, unbuttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. "I understand you and Olivia had a challenging conversation at Bellevue. That's between me and my sister. Ordinarily, I'd agree. But since she came home in tears and has barely spoken since, I thought it warranted a conversation." Jessica's professional mask slipped slightly. "She's been crying." James nodded. "Whatever you said hit her hard. Harder than I've seen anything affect her before. I told her the truth about your family's financial situation," Jessica said bluntly, "about how they're using her to get to my money." To her surprise, James didn't deny it. "My family's financial troubles aren't a secret to me, Ms. Warren, nor is my mother's strategic thinking when it comes to advantageous connections." "Then you admit it? This whole engagement is a business arrangement?" James's expression hardened. "I admit that my family sees benefits in our marriage beyond my personal happiness. That doesn't mean I don't love your sister." "Love and calculation make strange bedfellows, Mr. Winthrop. Do they?" He leaned forward. "You built a billion-dollar company out of love for your sister, calculating every move to ensure her security. Are those impulses really so different?" Jessica blinked, caught off guard by his insight. "My motives were pure, as are mine where Olivia is concerned." James's voice softened. "I knew who she was when we met. Yes, Jessica Warren's sister. That intrigued me initially, I won't deny it. But then I got to know her, really know her. Her kindness, her resilience, the way she lights up a room just by entering it, despite herself." Jessica felt a twinge of recognition. Those were Olivia's qualities, undeniably. "Do you know what she told me on our third date?" James continued. "That she felt like she'd been holding her breath her whole life, waiting for permission to exhale. That with me, she could finally breathe." The words stung. "She said that?" James nodded. "She also told me about your parents, about how you stepped up when no one else would, how you built your company from nothing while making sure she never felt the financial impact of being orphaned." Jessica looked away, uncomfortable with his knowledge of their family history. "Olivia admires you more than you know," James said quietly. "She spent years trying to live up to the example you set, feeling like she could never measure up. That's ridiculous. She doesn't need to measure up to anything. Try telling her that. In her mind, you're the gold standard. Brilliant, successful, independent, while she's still finding her way." Jessica studied him, searching for signs of manipulation. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because despite what you think of my family, and honestly much of it is probably true, I love your sister, and her relationship with you matters to her, even if she'd never admit it. If it matters so much, why exclude me from the wedding?" James sighed. "That wasn't the original plan. Olivia drafted at least a dozen emails to you over the past year, trying to mend fences. But each time something would happen. She'd see an interview where you mentioned raising her as your greatest challenge, or a social media post where you were at some gala with friends while ignoring her birthday. The gap just kept widening. So, she decided not to invite me at all. That's quite a leap. The final straw was my mother," James admitted. "She suggested that having a controlling influence at the wedding might cast a shadow over Olivia's day, that it might be better to make a clean break. And Olivia listened to her?" Jessica couldn't hide her hurt. Diana Winthrop can be very persuasive, and she offered Olivia something she's been craving: unconditional acceptance. The irony wasn't lost on Jessica. She'd spent years trying to protect Olivia from people who might use her, only to push her into the arms of exactly such a family. "What do you want from me, Mr. Winthrop? An investment in your family business? My blessing for this marriage?" "Neither." James stood, rebuttoning his jacket. "What I want is for you to understand that whatever game you're playing with Bellevue, you're not just hurting my family or our wedding plans, you're hurting Olivia, and I thought that was the one thing you'd never willingly do." His words landed with precision. Jessica felt something shift inside her, a perspective tilting, a certainty wavering. "My 5 minutes are up," she said, but without the earlier coldness. James nodded and headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I wish we'd met under different circumstances. I think we might have gotten along. We both want what's best for Olivia, after all." After he left, Jessica sat motionless, his words echoing in her mind. Was it possible she'd misjudged him? That despite his family's machinations, his feelings for Olivia were genuine? More troubling was his assessment of Olivia's view of her, not as a controlling force, but as an impossible standard. Had Jessica's success cast such a long shadow that her sister had felt lost in it all these years? She buzzed her assistant. Cancel my afternoon meetings, all of them, even the board call. Especially that. Say something came up with my sister. For once, it wasn't even a lie. The storage facility was climate-controlled and secure, the kind of place that charged premium rates to protect the belongings of Manhattan's elite. Jessica's unit was small, just 10 by 10 feet, but it contained the few physical remnants of her life before success, before the penthouse and the company and the features in Forbes. The security guard nodded as she swiped her keycard. Haven't seen you in a while, Ms. Warren. It's been a few years, she admitted. Need any help finding your unit? No, thank you. I remember. She walked down the sterile hallway, her heels clicking against the concrete floor. Unit 1418, the date their parents had died. A morbid choice she'd made at 18, when grief still colored every decision. The padlock clicked open, and she lifted the metal door to reveal a neat stack of boxes, each labeled in her precise handwriting. College textbooks, early business plans, Warren family. It was the last one she sought. A large plastic container that held what remained of their family home after she'd sold it to pay off medical bills and funeral expenses. She'd kept only what could fit in her dorm room and this box, the irreplaceable pieces of their shared history. Jessica dragged the container to the center of the unit and sat cross-legged beside it, feeling strangely vulnerable on the cold floor. In her designer suit, with a deep breath, she lifted the lid. The scent hit her first, a faint trace of her mother's perfume still clinging to the carefully folded cashmere sweater on top. Jessica touched it gently before setting it aside. Beneath were photo albums, high school yearbooks, her father's favorite coffee mug with the chipped handle. She kept digging, looking for something specific. Near the bottom, she found it. A shoebox labeled Family Time Capsule in her mother's handwriting. Inside was a collection of mementos her parents had gathered over the years, intending to open it on Olivia's 18th birthday. That day had come and gone without celebration. Both sisters, too, wrapped in their own pain to remember the tradition. Jessica lifted out the contents one by one. Birthday cards the girls had made for each other. A pressed flower from a family vacation to Yellowstone. A report card of Jessica's with her father's proud note in the margin. Olivia's first lost tooth in a tiny envelope. At the very bottom was a DVD in a case labeled, "For Our Girls, open when both are adults." Jessica stared at it, her hands trembling slightly. She'd forgotten about this, or perhaps deliberately pushed it from her mind. Their parents had recorded messages for milestone, birthdays, graduations, future weddings. This must have been their final one, meant for when both daughters had fully grown up. She slipped the DVD into her purse and continued exploring the box. Hidden in a side pocket was a stack of letters tied with a faded ribbon. Correspondence between her parents from their college days, before marriage and children. Jessica had never read them, feeling it would be an invasion of privacy even after death. Now, though, she carefully untied the ribbon and opened the top letter. Her mother's elegant handwriting filled the page. "My dearest Richard, another week. Apart feels like an eternity. I miss your laugh, the way your eyes crinkle at the corners when you're amused but trying to be serious. My roommate says I'm being ridiculous, that no college relationship is worth this much pining, but she doesn't understand. What we have isn't just love. It's a friendship that makes everything else in life make sense." Jessica felt tears prick. Her eyes. This was how her parents had seen each other, as the person who made everything else make sense. When had she last felt that kind of connection with anyone, let alone Olivia? She read through several more letters, each filled with the ordinary details of young lives unfolding, dreams being shaped, futures being planned. In one, her father wrote, "I had the strangest thought today. Someday we might have children who will go through their own versions of what we're experiencing now. I hope we'll remember how it feels to be young and uncertain, to be figuring things out as we go. I hope we'll give them space to make mistakes while always being their safe harbor." Jessica folded the letter carefully. Her parents had wanted to be a safe harbor, not a controlling force. Had she failed to honor that intention in her guardianship of Olivia? As the afternoon wore on, Jessica lost herself in memories. Cards, drawings, photographs. One image particularly caught her attention. Olivia, at about 8 years old, dressed in a too large chef's hat, proudly presenting a lopsided cake to their parents. Jessica stood beside her, 14, and already serious, but with an arm protectively around her sister's shoulders. She remembered that day, their mother's birthday. Olivia had been determined to bake the cake herself, refusing all help until she nearly set the kitchen on fire. Only then had she allowed Jessica to step in, the sisters working together to salvage the dessert. It was a perfect metaphor for what had gone wrong between them, Jessica realized. She'd moved from supporting Olivia to taking over completely, unable to let her sister make her own mistakes. And Olivia had gone from welcoming Jessica's help to resenting her intervention. Near the bottom of the box, Jessica found a small leather diary, her own, from the year after their parents died. She flipped it open to a random page. Olivia had another nightmare last night. She crawled into my bed around 2 a.m., crying about Mom and Dad. I held her until she fell asleep, her small hand clutching my pajama top like I might disappear too. I'm so scared of messing this up. What if I can't be what she needs? What if all my decisions are wrong? But when I look at her sleeping face, I know I have to try. We're all each other has now. Jessica closed the diary, her vision blurring with tears. When had she lost sight of that simple truth? When had protecting Olivia become controlling her? When had her sister's happiness stopped being enough? With trembling hands, she gathered a few items from the box: the DVD, some family photos, the letters, and a small velvet pouch she'd almost overlooked. Inside were 2 matching silver lockets their parents had given them the Christmas before the accident. Jessica had put hers away after the funeral, too painful to wear. Olivia must have done the same. Before closing the storage unit, Jessica took one last look at the physical remnants of their family history. The pain and love contained in this small space was overwhelming, but also clarifying. She'd been so focused on securing Olivia's future that she'd forgotten to honor their past, the connection that had once meant everything to both of them. As she drove back to her penthouse, the DVD felt like it was burning a hole in her purse. She wasn't sure she was ready to hear her parents' voices again, to receive whatever wisdom they'd tried to impart from the past, but she knew she needed to, for Olivia, for herself, for the promise of the family they might still become. What would you tell us now? She whispered to her parents' memory, as the city lights blurred past her window. How do I fix what I've broken? The cemetery was quieter than Jessica remembered, the manicured lawns empty except for an elderly man tending to a grave in the distance. She picked her way carefully between the headstones, a small bouquet of white roses clutched in her hand. She hadn't visited in almost a year, a realization that filled her with shame. Early on, she'd come weekly, bringing Olivia along to maintain their connection to their parents. Over time, the visits became monthly, then quarterly, then only on anniversaries and birthdays. Life had gotten busy, or at least that's what she told herself. The Warren family plot was simple but elegant: 2 matching headstones of polished granite, their parents' names etched side by side, with the epitaph, "Beloved parents, their love lives on." Jessica placed the roses between the graves and sat on the small stone bench facing them. "I'm sorry it's been so long," she said softly. "I've been, lost, maybe." The silence that answered her felt heavy with 16 years of absence. "Found the DVD you left us. I haven't watched it yet. I'm afraid of what you'll say." She laughed humorlessly. Ridiculous, right? Being afraid of a message from the past. But what if you're disappointed in me, in what I've done with the responsibility you never meant to give me? A gentle breeze rustled the trees overhead. Jessica closed her eyes, trying to imagine what her mother would say, how her father would advise her. "I think I've ruined everything with Olivia," she continued. "I thought I was protecting her, but I was really just controlling her. And now she's marrying into this family that I don't trust, and she won't listen to me, and I don't know how to fix it." "Sometimes there ain't nothing to fix, just things to accept," a gravelly voice interrupted. Jessica startled, turning to find the elderly man she'd noticed earlier standing a few feet away. He leaned on a rake, his weathered face kind beneath a battered gardener's hat. "I'm sorry," he said. "Didn't mean to eavesdrop. Just heard you talking and thought you might want some company." Jessica wiped at her eyes quickly. "That's very kind. But I'm fine." The old man nodded toward the graves. "Your folks?" "Yes. They died 16 years ago. That's a long time to carry grief." He moved closer, studying the headstones. "Younger than me when they passed, I'd wager. They were 42. Car accident." He shook his head sadly. Too young. Left children. Behind, sounds like. My sister and me. She was 14. I was 18. And you raised her. It wasn't a question. Jessica nodded, surprised by the man's perception. I tried. That's actually why I'm here. We've drifted apart. She's getting married and I'm not invited. The gardener settled his thin frame on the far end of the bench, setting his rake aside. Got 3 daughters myself, all of 'em mad at me for one thing or another over the years. How did you fix it? Didn't. Sometimes. He shrugged. Sometimes you just gotta let people be mad until they're ready not to be anymore. That's your advice? Just wait? Nope. My advice is listen more than you talk. Pride's a poor substitute. For family, he gestured to the surrounding graves. All these folks thought they had more time to make things right. Most of them were wrong, despite herself. Jessica felt a smile tugging at her lips. Are you always this blunt with strangers in cemeteries? Only the ones who look like they need to hear it. He stood with a grunt. Your sister getting married, that's a blessing, not a problem, even if you don't like who she's marrying. How do you know I don't like him? Would you be here talking to your folks' graves if you did? He picked up his rake. Wedding's a beginning, not an ending. Remember that. As he shuffled away, Jessica called after him. What's your name? Edward, he replied, without turning. Been tending these grounds 43 years. Your folks have good neighbors here. Jessica watched him disappear among the headstones, his simple wisdom settling over her like a mantle. A beginning, not an ending. The phrase repeated in her mind as she drove from the cemetery to Bellevue Estate. The renovation work was in full swing when she arrived. The ballroom gleamed with new chandeliers, the gardens burst with fresh plantings, and workers were installing a state-of-the-art sound system throughout the mansion. Everything's on schedule, Rachel assured her as they walked the grounds. The upgrades will be complete with weeks to spare before the Warren Winthrop wedding. Has my sister been back to see the changes? Rachel hesitated. No. She's been communicating through her wedding planner. Of course she had. Olivia was avoiding any direct contact, still furious about their confrontation. I'd like to see the video set up in the ballroom, Jessica said. As they entered the grand space, Jessica's mind was already racing with a new plan, not one of revenge or control, but of reconciliation. A beginning, not an ending. That evening, she finally gathered the courage to watch the DVD her parents had left. Setting up her laptop in her living room, she dimmed the lights and pressed play. Her parents' faces filled the screen, looking exactly as she remembered them. Her father's kind eyes, her mother's warm smile. They sat close together on their living room sofa, relaxed and happy. Hello, our beautiful girls, her mother began. If you're watching this, it means you're both adults now, remarkable women with your own lives and dreams. We made this video to share some thoughts about family and love, her father continued. Things we hope you'll carry with you as you navigate adulthood together. Jessica paused the video, tears streaming down her face. She wasn't ready for this. After all, seeing them alive, hearing their voices, it was too much. But Olivia deserved to see this too. They should watch it together, as their parents had intended. With sudden clarity, Jessica knew what she needed to do. She wiped her tears and picked up her phone. Dialing Charles. I need you to draw up new paperwork, she said when he answered. Bellevue Estate is going to change ownership again. The next morning, Jessica called an emergency meeting with her renovation team at Bellevue. She walked them through her new vision, not just cosmetic upgrades, but meaningful changes that would honor her parents' memory and heal the rift with her sister. The Rose Garden ceremony space. I want to add a memorial fountain, she explained. Something subtle but beautiful. And here, in the ballroom, we need projection capabilities for family photos and videos. These changes will add to the budget, the project manager warned. Money isn't the concern, Jessica replied. Getting it right is. As the team dispersed to implement her new directions, Jessica stood alone in the ballroom, imagining Olivia walking down the aisle, not as Jessica Warren's sister or James Winthrop's bride, but as Olivia, strong, resilient, deserving of her own happiness on her own terms. Jessica pulled out her phone and began drafting an email to James. Not a confrontation, this time, but an olive branch. A new beginning. I was wrong, she typed. Not about your family's financial situation. That remains a concern. But about your feelings for my sister. I'd like to propose a solution that protects Olivia while respecting your relationship. Are you willing to meet? She hesitated before sending it, wondering if she was overstepping again. But the gardener's words echoed in her mind. Pride's a poor substitute for family. She pressed send, then began a second, more difficult message, this one to Olivia, not asking for forgiveness, not making excuses, but offering the one thing she'd never truly given her sister, freedom to choose her own path. With Jessica's unconditional support, Bellevue will be ready for your wedding, she wrote. No strings attached. It's yours, whether I'm invited or not. Because some things are more important than being right. Some things are more important than pride. Love you always, Jay. As she signed her name, Jessica felt something shift inside her. A weight lifting, a perspective changing. For the first time in 16 years, she wasn't trying to control the outcome. She was simply opening the door to possibility. And for now, that would have to be enough. For the next 2 weeks, Jessica threw herself into transforming Bellevue Estate with the same intensity she usually reserved for product launches and acquisitions. She moved into one of the estate's guest cottages, working alongside contractors, from dawn until late into the night. You're going to burn yourself out, Marco warned during one of his visits, watching as Jessica reviewed fabric samples for the ballroom draperies. When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours? I'll sleep after the wedding, she replied without looking up. This palette or the slightly warmer one? Marco pointed to the warmer option. You know this level of perfection isn't necessary, right? Olivia hasn't even responded to your email. Jessica's hands stilled briefly. This isn't about her response. It's about doing the right thing, regardless of outcome. Very zen of you. Marco's skepticism was clear. And what about the Winthrop situation? Any progress there? James agreed to meet. We're having lunch tomorrow in the city. Brave man. Jessica smiled faintly. I promised not to bring up his family's finances if he agreed to discuss a prenuptial agreement that protects Olivia. And he went for that? Surprisingly, yes. She set the fabric samples aside. I think he genuinely cares for her, Marco. More than I gave him credit for. Each renovation decision became a form of meditation for Jessica, a way of processing her complicated feelings about Olivia's wedding. The bridal suite, once an afterthought in the mansion's layout, was transformed into a sanctuary. Jessica worked with designers to incorporate subtle nods to the sisters' shared childhood, the color palette inspired by their mother's garden, built-in shelves that echoed their father's study. In the ballroom, she supervised the installation of a state-of-the-art projection system that could display family photos and videos on the silk-paneled walls. The memorial fountain in the rose garden took shape, a simple, elegant design, with water flowing over inscribed stones bearing words like family, memory, love, and legacy. One afternoon, Jessica found herself standing in the catering kitchen with the estate's longtime chef, Henry, Ms. Warren, about the wedding menu. He began cautiously. The Winthrops have requested a very traditional selection, quite formal. And, you think that's wrong for the occasion? Henri hesitated. Having known your sister during her visits here, I believe she might prefer something more personal. Jessica considered this. What would you suggest? Perhaps incorporating dishes that have meaning to the bride, family recipes, or childhood favorites. The idea struck a chord. Jessica remembered Sunday morning pancakes their father made, shaped like animals, holiday roasts their mother perfected, the chocolate cake both girls requested for every birthday. Can you recreate Warren family recipes if I provide them? Henry's eyes lit up. Of course. It would be my honor. That evening, Jessica dug through her parents' old recipe box, carefully noting dishes Olivia had loved. She drafted a proposed menu that blended elegance with nostalgia, sophisticated enough for the Winthrops, but deeply meaningful for her sister. While the estate transformation continued, Jessica reached out discreetly to people from Olivia's past, childhood friends who'd drifted away as Olivia embraced her new social circle, favorite teachers, even their old next-door neighbor who had checked on the girls regularly after their parents died. People who knew Olivia as herself, not as Jessica Warren's sister, or James Winthrop's fiancée. I'm not asking you to attend, she assured each person, just to send a note or memory for a special project. The responses poured in. Photos, stories, well wishes. Jessica worked with a book designer to create a leather-bound volume of Olivia's journey, a chronicle of her sister's life through the eyes of those who had loved her along the way. Her lunch with James proved surprisingly productive. They met at a quiet restaurant in Manhattan, both initially stiff but gradually warming as they discovered common ground. I've reviewed your proposed prenuptial agreement, James said, sliding the document across the table. I've made some minor adjustments, but the core protections for Olivia remain intact. Jessica skimmed his changes, reasonable modifications that showed he'd given it serious thought. This is fair. Thank you. I told you I love your sister. I want her protected too. And the separate matter of your family's business? James sighed. My mother won't like it, but your investment proposal makes sense. Limited partnership. Clearly defined parameters, her name nowhere near the board. It protects everyone, Jessica pointed out. Your family gets the capital they need. I get a reasonable return. And our personal relationships stay separate from business. Speaking of personal relationships, James ventured. Olivia received your email. Jessica's fork paused midway to her mouth. Did she say anything about it? Not directly. But she's been checking the Bellevue Instagram account daily, looking at the renovation updates. Something warm unfurled in Jessica's chest. Hope, perhaps. The estate will be ready, whether she wants me there or not. James studied her for a moment. You really would stay away, wouldn't you? Even after buying the place, even after all this work? It's her day, Jessica said simply. Not mine. As the wedding date approached, Jessica worked with increasing urgency. She personally selected the china and crystal, chose linens that complemented the estate's architecture, and worked with florists to create arrangements that honored the Warren family's love of gardening while satisfying the Winthrop's taste. For luxury, one of her most meaningful additions was easily overlooked. A small antique table positioned at the entrance to the ceremony space, with 2 empty silver frames waiting to hold photos of her parents. Beside them, she placed the velvet pouch containing the silver lockets they had given their daughters years ago. 3 days before the wedding, Jessica received a call from James. The Winthrops want to do a final walkthrough tomorrow. Diana insists on seeing the renovations before giving final approval. It's not her approval I'm concerned with, Jessica replied, but they're welcome to visit. Olivia will be with them, James added quietly. Jessica's heart stuttered. I see. Would she prefer I not be present? There was a pause on the line. Actually, she asked specifically if you would be there to show them around. After hanging up, Jessica stood in the center of the ballroom, where in 3 days, Olivia would have her first dance as a married woman. The space was transformed, elegant yet warm, with subtle lighting that made the room glow like candlelight. She's coming, Jessica whispered to herself, and she asked for me. It wasn't forgiveness. It might not even be reconciliation, but it was a beginning, and as the gardener had reminded her, beginnings were precious things not to be squandered. The morning of the Winthrops' visit dawned clear and perfect, as if the estate itself understood the importance of the day. Jessica woke early in the guest cottage, reviewing mental checklists as she dressed carefully in a simple blue dress that her mother had always said brought out her eyes. Her phone buzzed with a message from Marco. Battle stations ready. Need reinforcements? She smiled at his military metaphor. I've got this. But thanks for offering. By 9 o'clock, Jessica had walked the entire property 3 times, ensuring everything was perfect. The newly installed fountain bubbled peacefully. In the rose garden, fresh flowers adorned every room. Even the weather cooperated, providing golden sunshine that streamed through the ballroom's floor-to-ceiling windows, making the new chandeliers sparkle. At precisely 10, a sleek black SUV rolled up the driveway. Jessica watched from the main entrance as Diana Winthrop emerged first, her critical gaze sweeping the facade for flaws. James followed, then his father, a distinguished man whose stiff movements suggested recent health problems. Finally, Olivia stepped out, sunglasses concealing her eyes, her posture tense. Jessica took a steadying breath and walked down the steps to greet them. Welcome to Bellevue. I'm so glad you could come. Diana's handshake was brief and cool. Ms. Warren, I understand you've made some changes to our venue. I've made improvements to the estate, yes, Jessica corrected gently. I hope you'll find them enhances the wedding experience. James's father, Harold, offered a warmer greeting. Thank you for accommodating us on such short notice. And congratulations on your acquisition. It's a magnificent property. Jessica nodded in thanks, then turned to her sister. Hello, Olivia. Olivia removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes that held a mixture of wariness and curiosity. Hi, Jess. The place looks amazing from the outside. Wait until you see inside, Jessica replied, resisting the urge to hug her. Shall we begin the tour? As they moved through the mansion, Diana peppered Jessica with questions about the renovations, each inquiry tinged with skepticism. These chandeliers are certainly bold. Were the originals damaged? The originals were beautiful, but dated, Jessica explained. These are custom designed to complement the room's architecture while providing better light for photography. Harold seemed genuinely impressed with the technical upgrades. The sound system is state-of-the-art. Our guests will appreciate the acoustics during the reception. Throughout it all, Olivia remained largely silent, taking everything in with an expression Jessica couldn't quite read. It wasn't until they reached the bridal suite that her sister's composure finally cracked. "You kept Mom's color scheme," Olivia said softly, running her hand along the pale blue silk draperies. "And Dad's reading chair," Jessica nodded. "I thought, you might want something familiar on your wedding day." Diana cleared her throat. "James, darling, why don't we check the ballroom again? I'm concerned about the placement of the head table." With remarkable perceptiveness, James ushered his parents out, leaving the sisters alone. For a moment, neither spoke. Olivia moved around the room, touching various elements: the antique vanity, the carefully selected artwork, the small bookshelf filled with volumes they'd both loved as children. "You've thought of everything," she finally said. "I tried," Jessica replied. "I wanted it to be perfect for you." Olivia turned to face her. "Why? After everything I said, everything I posted online, why go to all this trouble? Because you're my sister. Because some things are more important than being right." "Like what?" "Like family. Like promises." Jessica hesitated, then reached into her pocket. "I have something for you." She withdrew a cream-colored envelope, embossed with Olivia's name in elegant script. "It's not a wedding gift exactly. More of a peace offering." Olivia accepted it, warily. "What is it?" "Open it when you're alone," Jessica suggested. After the tour, they rejoined the Winthrops for the remainder of the walkthrough. Diana continued to find minor issues to critique, while Harold seemed increasingly impressed with the renovations. James kept shooting grateful glances at Jessica, particularly when she revealed the custom menu incorporating Warren family recipes. "This is highly irregular," Diana protested. "We've already approved a traditional menu." "Actually, Mom," James interjected, "Olivia and I love this idea. It makes the day more personal." Diana's lips thinned with displeasure, but she didn't argue further. As the tour concluded in the rose garden, Jessica saved her most meaningful addition for last. "I've incorporated a small memorial area here," she explained, leading them to the new fountain, "so your parents can be present in spirit." Olivia's breath caught as she saw the inscription on the central stone: "Richard and Marie Warren. Always. In our hearts." "The wedding photographer can position family photos to capture this in the background," Jessica continued, her voice carefully professional despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "If you'd prefer something different, it's perfect," Olivia whispered. "Thank you." The Winthrops departed shortly after, Diana still frowning over her extensive notes, Harold complimenting Jessica on her vision for the property, and James expressing quiet gratitude. Olivia lingered for a moment, the envelope clutched in her hand. "You didn't have to do any of this," she said. "I know. It doesn't change everything that's happened. I know that too." Olivia studied her sister's face. "I'll read this tonight. That's all I ask." After they left, Jessica collapsed onto a bench in the rose garden, emotionally drained but cautiously hopeful. Whatever happened next was up to Olivia. That evening, in her Tribeca apartment, Olivia finally opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten on Jessica's personal stationery, along with a small USB drive and an antique key. She read the letter first. "Dear Olivia, there are no words adequate to express my regrets for the ways I've hurt you. I could say I was trying to protect you, and that would be true, but it's not a justification. The line between protection and control is one I crossed too many times, blurring the boundaries between being your sister and trying to be your parent. I found Mom and Dad's video message to us, the one they recorded for when we were both adults. I haven't watched it yet. It didn't feel right to do so without you. The USB drive contains a copy. Whenever you're ready, the key opens a safety deposit box at Manhattan Trust Bank. Inside is the deed to Bellevue Estate, transferred to your name. The property is my gift to you. No strings attached, no conditions. Whether I'm invited to your wedding or not, whether we reconcile or not, Bellevue is yours, not because you're my sister or James's wife, but because you're Olivia, strong, kind, and deserving of your dreams coming true. I found your diary, by accident, years ago. I read a few entries recently, trying to understand your perspective. You wrote that you sometimes wanted to be someone else, someone with a past as glossy as the future you were trying to build. I understand that now in ways I didn't before, but please know this. The Olivia Warren I've always known is extraordinary, exactly as she is. All my love. Always. Jessica. Enclosed with the letter was a small photo album filled with childhood pictures. Olivia and Jessica building sandcastles, riding bikes, sleeping curled together during a thunderstorm. The final page held a more recent photo Jessica had found. Olivia at her college graduation, looking up at her sister with a mixture of pride and love that had somehow been forgotten in the years since. Beneath it, Jessica had written a simple caption, "We were happy once. Perhaps we could be again." Olivia closed the album, tears streaming down her face, and reached for her phone. The night before Olivia's wedding, Jessica worked late at Bellevue, checking and rechecking every detail. The mansion gleamed with polish and anticipation. Flowers had been delivered and arranged. The kitchen hummed with preparation for tomorrow's feast. Everything was perfect, as it should be for the sister who deserved nothing less. "You should get some rest," Eleanor said, appearing in the doorway of the ballroom where Jessica was adjusting the placement of candles for the 10th time. "Tomorrow will come whether you're ready or not." Jessica straightened, rolling her shoulders to ease the tension. "I just want everything to be right. In case..." She didn't finish the sentence. In the week since the Winthrops' visit, she'd heard nothing from Olivia. The deed transfer had been completed, the safety deposit box key delivered, but no acknowledgement had come. No invitation to the wedding had arrived. Eleanor crossed the room and took the candle from Jessica's hand, setting it down. "You've done everything you can. The rest isn't up to you." "I know." Jessica looked around the ballroom one last time. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables set with fine china and silver. Tomorrow, 200 guests would fill this space to celebrate Olivia and James. Whether Jessica would be among them remained uncertain. "Come on," Eleanor urged gently. "I've made tea in the cottage." Jessica allowed herself to be led across the darkened grounds to the guest cottage where she'd been staying. Inside, the small living room was cozy with lamplight, 2 steaming mugs waiting on the coffee table. "I added a splash of whiskey to yours," Eleanor confessed. "Medicinal purposes." Jessica smiled despite herself. "Doctor's orders?" "Housekeeper's." Much more authoritative. They sat in companionable silence for a while, sipping their tea as the clock ticked toward midnight. Jessica's mind drifted to memories of other nights before important events, staying up late helping Olivia finish school projects, quizzing her before exams, calming her nerves before college interviews. Always the older sister, always responsible. "Do you think she'll ever forgive me?" Jessica asked suddenly. Eleanor considered the question carefully. "Forgiveness isn't a single moment, dear. It's a process, a journey you take together. But what if she doesn't want to take that journey? What if tomorrow comes and goes, and nothing changes between us? Then you keep the door open," Eleanor said simply, "for as long as it takes." The sound of tires on gravel interrupted their conversation. Jessica glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. "Are we expecting someone?" Eleanor shook her head, looking equally confused. Jessica moved to the window, pulling back the curtain to see a familiar car parked outside. Her heart skipped. "It's Olivia." Before Eleanor could respond, Jessica was already moving to the door, opening it just as her sister raised her hand to knock. They stared at each other for a long moment, both seemingly at a loss for words. Olivia spoke first. "I couldn't sleep. Neither could I," Jessica admitted. "Do you want to come in?" Olivia shook her head. "Actually, I was hoping we could walk. See the estate at night?" Eleanor appeared behind Jessica. "I'll put on more tea for when you girls get back," she said, then tactfully retreated to the kitchen. Jessica grabbed a light cardigan and stepped outside. The May night was mild, stars visible above the estate's ancient trees, the scent of roses heavy in the air. They walked in silence toward the main gardens, their footsteps in sync despite everything. "I watched the video," Olivia finally said. "Mom and Dad's message," Jessica's breath caught. "You did?" Olivia nodded, stopping to face her sister in the moonlight. "You should have watched it too. They had a lot to say to both of us. I wanted to wait, to watch it together, like they intended." Olivia's expression softened. "I brought it. If you still want to." Hope bloomed in Jessica's chest. "I'd like that." They continued walking, reaching the rose garden where tomorrow Olivia would say her vows. The memorial fountain gleamed silver in the moonlight, water trickling peacefully over. The inscribed stones. Remember how Dad used to take us for Sunday drives? Olivia asked suddenly, and we'd pass this place, and I'd press my face against the window like a kid in a candy store? Jessica smiled at the memory. You told everyone you were going to get married here someday, and now I am. Olivia's voice held wonder. Thanks to you. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Olivia turned to her sister. Not just for the venue, for everything. For stepping up when our parents died. For making... Sure, I still got to be a kid when you had to grow up overnight. For sacrificing your dreams so I could have mine. Jessica shook her head. I made so many mistakes, Liv. I held on too tight. I tried to control everything because you were terrified of failing. Olivia finished for her. Mom and Dad said as much in their video. They knew you'd try to be perfect, that you'd set impossible standards for yourself. They knew me well, Jessica admitted ruefully. They knew us both. They said I'd likely push away the people who loved me most when I got older, testing boundaries to find myself. Olivia's voice caught. They were right about that too. They reached a stone bench beneath an ancient oak tree, fairy lights twinkling in its branches, part of Jessica's wedding preparations. They sat together, closer than they had been in years. I read your letter, Olivia said quietly, and I found the deed. It's yours, no strings attached. I can't accept it, Jess. It's too much. It's not enough, Jessica countered. Not after everything. Olivia was silent for a moment, collecting her thoughts. When I was 16, I found a letter you'd written to MIT. They were still holding your scholarship, saying you could enroll whenever you were ready. I also found your rejection letter, where you told them you had family obligations that made it impossible. Jessica stiffened. You weren't supposed to see that, but I did. And instead of understanding your sacrifice, I felt guilty and resentful. Like I was the burden keeping you from your dreams. It was easier to pull away than to face that every day. You were never a burden, Liv. Never. I know that now. Olivia reached for her sister's hand, but it took a lot of growing up to see it, and I'm still growing up. Still figuring things out. Me too, Jessica admitted. I'm not very good at letting go, and I'm not very good at looking back. Olivia squeezed her hand. But maybe we can learn. Together. The word hung between them, fragile and precious. I watched you transform this place, Olivia continued. Every change you made wasn't about your vision. It was about mine, about our family, our memories. I wanted you to have the wedding you've always dreamed of. It wouldn't be the wedding I've dreamed of without my sister there. Olivia reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope, which is why I brought this. Jessica accepted the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a formal wedding invitation, her name written in Olivia's handwriting, along with a handwritten note. Will you walk me down the aisle? There's no one else I'd rather have give me away. Jessica looked up, tears blurring her vision. Are you sure? More sure than I've been about anything in a long time. Olivia's own eyes glistened. Mom and Dad should be here tomorrow, but they can't be. You're the one who's been there for every important moment of my life. I want you there for this one too. Jessica couldn't speak, overcome with emotion. Instead, she pulled her sister into a fierce hug, feeling Olivia's arms wrapped just as tightly around her. They stayed that way for a long time, 16 years of distance beginning to mend beneath the stars. When they finally drew apart, Olivia wiped at her eyes. One condition, though. Anything. We watch Mom and Dad's video together. Tonight. Before. Tomorrow changes everything. Jessica nodded, her heart full. Deal. As they walked back to the cottage, arms linked like when they were girls, Jessica felt something settle within her, a peace she hadn't known since before their parents died. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. The Winthrops would be shocked by her inclusion in the wedding party. There would be awkward moments and adjustment periods. But tonight, under a canopy of stars, two sisters had found their way back to each other, and that was worth more than any estate, any company, any fortune Jessica had built. Liv, she said, as they reached the cottage. I'm really glad you couldn't sleep tonight. Olivia smiled, her face illuminated by moonlight. Me too, big sister. Me too. Eleanor found them at the cottage's small kitchen table, laptop open between them, empty tea mugs pushed aside. The sisters sat close, shoulders touching, both with tear-streaked faces illuminated by the screen's soft glow. We're watching it. Again, Olivia explained as Eleanor quietly refilled their mugs. For the third time. On screen, their parents smiled warmly, frozen in mid-conversation. Jessica's finger hovered over the play button. Just once more? Olivia nodded, and Eleanor slipped away, leaving them to this sacred reconnection. Their parents? Voices filled the room again. Familiar cadences that both sisters had feared forgetting over the years. Their father's gentle humor, their mother's thoughtful pauses. The message was simple yet profound. Love each other. Forgive each other. Be sisters first and foremost. They knew us so well, Jessica marveled as the video concluded. It's like they could see exactly what would happen. Not exactly, Olivia countered. I don't think they anticipated you buying my wedding venue. The sisters exchanged glances, then burst into laughter. Real, uninhibited laughter that released years of tension. When they finally caught their breath, wiping fresh tears from their eyes, something had fundamentally shifted between them. We should talk, Jessica said. Really talk. About everything. Olivia glanced at the clock. Nearly 2 a.m. I'm getting married in 10 hours. Cold feet? Not about James. Olivia smiled. But I should probably get some sleep. Jessica began to close the laptop, but Olivia stopped her. No, you're right. We should talk. We've waited too long already. They moved to the cottage's small living room, curling up on opposite ends of the sofa like they used to during their late-night conversations as teenagers. The familiarity of the posture unlocked something between them. I'm sorry I shut you out, Olivia began. After college, when I started moving in different circles, I'm sorry I made you feel like you needed to escape in the first place, Jessica countered. I was so focused on making sure you had opportunities that I forgot to let you choose which ones mattered to you. Remember when I wanted to major in art history, and you convinced me to do business instead? Jessica winced. One of my many mistakes. Not entirely, Olivia admitted. The business background helped when I finally got that gallery job you hated, the one in Chelsea. I didn't hate it, Jessica protested. I just thought that I deserved better. I know. Olivia tucked her feet under her. But better to you meant more prestigious, more lucrative. For me, it meant more fulfilling. The conversation flowed more easily now. Years of misunderstandings, finally addressed in the safety of pre-dawn darkness. They spoke of their parents, of the trauma that had shaped them both so differently, of Jessica's fear of failing as Olivia's guardian, and Olivia's guilt at being a burden. I used to have nightmares, Jessica confessed, that social services would come and take you away, because I wasn't doing a good enough job. I had nightmares too, Olivia said quietly. That you'd realize your life would be easier without me, and send me to live with Aunt Margaret. Aunt Margaret? She collected ceramic cats and smelled like cabbage. Exactly. So I tried to be perfect, to never cause problems. Jessica reached across the sofa to take her sister's hand. And then as a teenager, you rebelled. I had to. I was suffocating under all that perfection. Olivia squeezed Jessica's fingers. But I never stopped needing you, even when I pretended I didn't. As night gave way to the first hints of dawn, they delved into more recent wounds. Olivia's exclusion of Jessica from her engagement, Jessica's impulsive purchase of Bellevue. When I saw that email from you, Olivia said, something in me just snapped, like all the resentment I'd been carrying suddenly had somewhere to go. I understand that now, Jessica replied. I'd built walls around myself for so long, CEO, guardian, responsible one, that I stopped seeing how my actions affected you, and I was so busy trying to be someone new that I rejected the person who'd always loved me most. The conversation turned to James and the Winthrops. Olivia admitted she wasn't blind to Diana's calculating nature or the family's financial troubles. James told me everything after he met with you, she explained. About their debts, about Diana's hopes for connecting to your money. He offered to call off the wedding if I had any doubts. And did you? Have doubts? Olivia considered the question carefully. About James? No. He's been honest with me, even when it's difficult. About marrying into the Winthrop family? Sometimes. Diana can be a lot. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. Jessica said dryly. Says. The woman who bought an entire estate to make a point. They dissolved into laughter again. The absurdity of their situation not lost on either of them. You know, Olivia said when they'd calmed, in some weird way, this whole mess brought us back together. If you hadn't bought Bellevue, if I hadn't uninvited you, we'd still be circling each other from a safe distance, Jessica finished, never saying what needed to be said. As sunrise painted the cottage walls with golden light, the sisters found themselves talked out but somehow lighter, as if the words they'd exchanged had physically weighed on them for years. I should go, Olivia said reluctantly. Diana will have a meltdown if the bride has puffy eyes from no sleep. Let her. It's your day, not hers. Olivia smiled. Our family is about to get a lot more complicated, isn't it? The Warrens versus the Winthrops. Should be interesting. Just promise me one thing, Olivia said, suddenly serious. No more trying to handle everything alone. Whatever comes next, James's family, career changes, future nieces and nephews, we face it together, I promise. Jessica held out her pinky finger, a childish gesture from their youth that suddenly felt exactly right. Sisters first. Olivia linked her pinky with Jessica's. Sisters first. As Olivia prepared to leave, Jessica retrieved a small velvet box from her bedroom. I was going to leave this in the bridal suite, but since you're here. Inside were the silver lockets their parents had given them, polished and restored, each containing a tiny family photo. I thought we could both wear them today, Jessica suggested. So Mom and Dad are with us. Olivia's eyes filled with tears as she carefully lifted one necklace. They are with us, you know. They'd be so happy right now. Jessica helped clasp the locket around her sister's neck, then allowed Olivia to do the same for her. The silver felt cool against her skin, a tangible connection to the past they shared and the future they were rebuilding. At the door, they embraced once more, both reluctant to let this newfound closeness end. See you at the altar, little sister, Jessica whispered. I'll be the one in white, Olivia replied with a smile. The bridal suite hummed with activity as makeup artists and hairstylists worked their magic on Olivia and her bridesmaids. Diana Winthrop hovered nearby, adjusting flower arrangements and issuing directives in her crisp, authoritative voice. The florist used ivory roses instead of cream, she complained to no one in particular. It throws off the entire color palette. Jessica, who had just entered with a tray of champagne flutes, caught her sister's eye in the mirror. Olivia gave an almost imperceptible eye roll, and Jessica bit back a smile. Some battles weren't worth fighting, especially today. The roses are beautiful, Diana, Jessica said diplomatically, and they complement Olivia's complexion perfectly. Diana turned, clearly startled by Jessica's presence. I wasn't aware you would be participating in the preparations. Before Jessica could respond, Olivia spoke up. I asked Jessica to help me get ready, and she'll be walking me down the aisle. The room fell silent, all eyes darting between the sisters and Diana, whose expression shifted from surprise to carefully controlled displeasure. I see, Diana said finally. Well, that's unexpected. The programs have already been printed, of course. Programs can be adjusted, Jessica replied smoothly. I've taken the liberty of having new ones prepared. They're being delivered shortly. Diana's mouth tightened, but a lifetime in high society had taught her when to concede gracefully. How thoughtful of you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I should check on the seating arrangements. As Diana swept from the room, Olivia's bridesmaids, 3 college friends who had weathered the rocky years of the sisters' estrangement, exchanged glances of barely suppressed amusement. That was almost too easy, one whispered. Don't worry, Jessica murmured, distributing champagne. She'll regroup and return with reinforcements. Sure enough, 20 minutes later, Diana reappeared with James's grandmother, the formidable matriarch of the Winthrop clan, whose approval was required for all significant family decisions. Olivia, darling, Diana began sweetly. Grandma Winthrop and I were just discussing the processional. She feels, we both feel, that having your sister walk you down the aisle might overshadow the family's traditions. The Winthrops have always had the groom's father escort unaccompanied brides. Olivia met her future grandmother-in-law's stern gaze in the mirror. With all due respect, Grandma Winthrop, I'm not becoming just a Winthrop today. I'm bringing my family's traditions too. And in my family, Jessica is all I have left. The old woman's expression softened unexpectedly. My dear, I understand more than you know. I lost my parents young as well. She turned to Jessica. You raised her well. She has spirit. Diana looked as if she'd bitten into something sour, but said nothing. Thank you, Jessica replied, genuinely touched by the matriarch's understanding. I'm very proud of who she's become. As the morning progressed, Jessica found herself working alongside Diana on last-minute details, their mutual love for their respective family members creating an uneasy truce. They were civil, if not warm, both recognizing that today wasn't about their differences. An hour before the ceremony, Jessica found a moment alone with Olivia. The bridesmaids had gone to take photos on the estate grounds, leaving the sisters, in the peaceful bridal suite. Nervous? Jessica asked, adjusting Olivia's veil. Not about marrying James. Olivia smiled. A little nervous about joining the Winthrop dynasty, though. You'll handle Diana just fine. You held your own against me all these years, remember? True. And I had good training in dealing with strong-willed women. Olivia turned from the mirror to face her sister. I have something for you. She retrieved a small package from her wedding bag and handed it to Jessica. Inside was a framed photo Jessica had never seen before. Their parents on their own wedding day, laughing as they fed each other cake. Where did you find this? Jessica asked, tracing the image with her fingertip. In that box of memories you gave me. It was tucked into one of Dad's old books. Olivia's eyes were bright with unshed tears. I thought you should have it. Jessica hugged her sister carefully, mindful of the wedding gown. It's perfect. Thank you. A knock at the door signaled it was nearly time. The wedding coordinator peeked in. 5 minutes, Miss Warren. Left alone once more, Jessica helped Olivia with a final check. The dress, the veil, the something borrowed, their mother's pearl earrings, something blue, a sapphire pin from James, something old, the locket around her neck. What about something new? Jessica asked suddenly. Did I miss it? Olivia smiled. You're my something new, Jess. Our relationship. Beginning again, stronger than before. Jessica felt tears threatening. If you make me cry and ruin my makeup, I'll never forgive you. Yes, you will, Olivia replied confidently. That's what sisters do. The garden ceremony was everything Olivia had dreamed of as a child. 200 guests seated in white chairs on the manicured lawn, rose petals scattered along the aisle, string quartet playing softly beneath ancient oak trees. At the altar, James waited, looking both nervous and elated. Diana had insisted on having the Winthrop family crest displayed prominently, but Jessica had countered by adding a subtle tribute to the Warrens. The memorial fountain visible just behind the altar, their parents' names catching the sunlight. As the music changed to signal the bride's arrival, Jessica took her place beside Olivia at the end of the aisle. She wore a simple blue dress that complemented but didn't compete with the bridal gown. Her dark hair swept up elegantly, the silver locket gleaming at her throat. Ready? She whispered to her sister. Olivia nodded, her eyes fixed on James. I've been ready for this my whole life. As they began their walk, a subtle projection appeared on either side of the aisle, images of their parents, smiling down on their daughters, seeming to accompany them on this journey. Jessica had arranged this surprise, working with the tech team to ensure the effect was magical, rather than maudlin. Guests gasped softly, many wiping away tears as they realized what they were seeing. Even Diana looked moved, her hand pressed to her heart. When they reached the altar, Jessica fulfilled the traditional role, answering the officiant's question with steady conviction. I do, she said when asked who gave this woman to be married. Then, departing from script, she added, with all our family's love, past and present. She placed Olivia's hand in James's, then stepped back to take her seat in the front row. As the ceremony continued, Jessica felt a profound sense of rightness. This was how it should be, not standing in her sister's way, but standing beside her, not controlling her path, but supporting her journey. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Jessica was the first to stand and applaud, her heart full with a joy she hadn't expected to feel. As the newlyweds walked back down the aisle, Olivia caught her sister's eye and mouthed 2 simple words, thank you. And Jessica knew she wasn't just being thanked for the venue or the ceremony or the months of planning. She was being thanked for letting go, for breaking down the walls between them, for finding her way back to being a sister first and foremost, just as their parents had wished. The reception transformed Bellevue's grand ballroom into a wonderland of light and celebration. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above tables adorned with elegant centerpieces, while fairy lights twinkled among draped silk panels, creating the illusion of a star-filled sky. The Warren family recipes that Jessica had insisted on including proved to be a hit, with many guests commenting on the personal touches throughout the menu. The chocolate cake is divine, remarked one of James's aunts to Jessica. Is it a family recipe? My father's, Jessica replied with a smile. He made it for every birthday when we were growing up. From her position at the head table, Jessica watched her sister and new brother-in-law moving from group to group, accepting congratulations and radiating happiness. The Winthrops, for their part, performed their hosting duties with practiced elegance, though Jessica noted that Harold seemed genuinely pleased while Diana's smile remained firmly fixed in place. When it came time for speeches, James's best man delivered the expected combination of humor and sentiment. Then, to everyone's surprise, Diana tapped her glass and rose to speak. As mother of the groom, she began, her voice carrying effortlessly across the ballroom, I had certain expectations about the woman who would eventually join our family. The Winthrops have traditions, standards that have served us well for generations. Jessica tensed slightly, unsure where this was heading. What I did not expect, Diana continued, was to find myself so thoroughly impressed by not one Warren woman, but two. A murmur rippled through the guests. Olivia, Diana turned to her new daughter-in-law, your grace and strength of character have been evident throughout this unconventional wedding planning process. And Jessica, she pivoted slightly, meeting Jessica's startled gaze. Your dedication to your sister's happiness, even when it meant setting aside your own considerable pride, speaks to a quality the Winthrops have always valued. Family above all. Jessica inclined her head in acknowledgement, genuinely moved by this unexpected olive branch. To the bride and groom, Diana concluded, raising her champagne flute. May your union bring together the best of both families. After the applause died down, the MC announced it was time for the father-daughter dance. A brief hush fell over the room, everyone aware that Olivia had no father present. Instead, James led his mother onto the dance floor while Olivia approached Jessica, hand extended. Dance with me? She asked, like Dad would have. Jessica's throat tightened with emotion as she rose and joined her sister on the dance floor. As the music began, their parents' favorite song, the projection system Jessica had installed, came to life once more. Ghost-like images of their parents dancing at their own wedding surrounded the sisters, creating the illusion that they were all sharing this moment together across time. You planned this, Olivia whispered, tears shimmering in her eyes. Some surprises are worth keeping, Jessica replied softly. They moved together in perfect synchrony, years of childhood dance lessons coming back effortlessly. Around them, guests watched in emotional silence, many dabbing at their eyes. Even the Winthrops seemed touched by this tribute to family bonds that transcended loss. Later, as the evening moved into full celebration mode, Jessica found herself standing beside James at the edge of the dance floor, watching Olivia laugh with college friends. Thank you, James said simply, for giving us this day, for trusting me with her. Just remember what I told you, Jessica replied, only half joking. I know how to buy large properties impulsively. Don't make me acquire your family business next. James laughed. Point taken. Although given the financial arrangement you've negotiated with my father, you might end up owning a piece of it anyway. Strictly business, Jessica assured him. Nothing personal, the way it should be. James clinked his glass against hers, to clear boundaries and new beginnings. As midnight approached, Jessica slipped away from the still lively reception to the quiet of the rose garden. The fountain she'd commissioned burbled peacefully, her parents' names silvered by moonlight. She sat on a nearby bench, taking a moment to process the day's emotions. There you are, came Olivia's voice as she joined Jessica, carefully arranging her wedding dress as she sat. Hiding from Diana's third cousin twice removed? He's been looking for you. Something about venture capital opportunities, Jessica chuckled. Just taking a breather. It's been quite a day. The best day, Olivia agreed, leaning her head on her sister's shoulder. Thank you for making it perfect. They sat in companionable silence for a while, listening to the muted sounds of celebration from inside. I've been thinking, Jessica said finally, about Bellevue. Jess, I told you, I can't accept— Hear me out, Jessica interrupted gently. What if we turned it into something more than a wedding venue? What if we created a foundation here, for siblings separated by tragedy, a place where they could reconnect, rebuild relationships, learn to be family again? Olivia lifted her head, studying her sister's face. You're serious, completely. We could fund it together. The Warren Sisters Foundation, for kids who've lost parents, who are struggling with the same issues we faced, where the older siblings could get support, instead of having to figure everything out alone, Olivia continued, catching the vision. And the younger ones could work through their feelings of guilt and burden. Exactly. Jessica's voice warmed with enthusiasm. We could offer counseling, workshops, even scholarships. All the things we needed but didn't know how to ask for. I love it, Olivia declared. It's perfect, A comfortable silence settled between them again, filled with possibility rather than regret. "I'm keeping my job at the gallery," Olivia said suddenly. "James and I talked about it. Diana thinks I should focus on being a Winthrop wife, but that's not enough for me." "Good," Jessica replied firmly. "You've worked too hard to give that up. And I want to be more involved in your company's charitable foundation. If you'll have me, I'd like nothing better." The sound of approaching footsteps interrupted their conversation. James appeared, looking for his bride. "There you are. They're about to do the sparkler send-off." Olivia stood, straightening her dress. "Coming." She turned back to Jessica. "Walk with us? Wouldn't miss it." Together, the three of them returned to the mansion, where guests had lined up along the driveway, sparklers at the ready. As Olivia and James prepared to make their grand exit, Jessica stepped back, allowing them their moment, but Olivia caught her hand. "No more standing on the sidelines, Jess. You're part of this too." And so, as the sparklers ignited, casting golden light over the assembled guests, Jessica found herself walking alongside her sister and new brother-in-law, part of a new family configuration none of them could have imagined months ago. At the waiting car, Olivia embraced her sister one last time. "I'll call you from the honeymoon," she promised. "You most certainly will not." Jessica laughed. "Enjoy being newlyweds. I'll be here when you get back. Promise? Promise." Jessica touched her locket, then her sister's matching one. Sisters first, remember? As the car pulled away, guests waving and cheering, Jessica felt Eleanor's steady presence beside her. "They'll be all right, those two," the older woman said confidently. "And so will you." Jessica nodded, watching the taillights disappear down the long driveway of Bellevue Estate, the property she'd bought in anger, but was now transforming with love. "Yes," she agreed, feeling truly at peace for the first time in 16 years. "I believe we all will be." 2 months later, on a sunny summer afternoon, Jessica and Olivia stood together at their parents' graves. They placed fresh flowers between the headstones, then stepped back, arms linked. "Do you think they'd be proud?" Olivia asked. Jessica thought of all they'd overcome, the loss, the years of misunderstanding, the hard-won reconciliation. She thought of the Warren Sisters Foundation, already taking shape at Bellevue, and the first group of siblings scheduled to visit in the fall. "I know they would be," she replied, squeezing her sister's hand. "They'd be proud of both of us." As they turned to leave, Jessica glanced back once more at the graves. "Thank you," she whispered to her parents' memory, "for everything you taught us. We finally learned the most important lesson of all. Family was never about control or obligation. It was about love, freely given. It was about finding your way back to each other, no matter how far you'd strayed. It was about sisters, together against the world, just as it had always been meant to be."